We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hey, welcome back. This is WDC Radio. I'm your host. I am WDC. I got a special edition show for you this evening. I got my man, Mr. Cooper's going to be talking about who he is and what he's up to in the community as being a disabled person. And so this is my first time actually behind the scenes here too. So you can see me, I'm actually in the background. I'm working the boards as well. So I want to thank you for tuning and listening in. So bear with me. I'm learning at the same time. We're going to actually have a conversation, and so I'm excited. This is a trial run. So we're streaming live. So you can go to Ustream. You can go to LA Talk Live. You can go to iTunes, LA Talk Live. We're broadcasting live, New York, DC, Atlanta, Oakland, Las Vegas. So I want to thank you. So man, this is exciting. If you just catching the show, earlier I was on Sports Lounge, so you can check the Sports Lounge on 2 p.m. on LA Talk Live, and then WDC Radio at 4 p.m. I'm broadcasting live, and so I appreciate you for tuning in. Again, this is a special show right here, and I got Mr. Cooper. So let me get the show started. Introduce my guest. How you doing, sir? How you doing today?
I can't complain. How about you?
I'm doing good. Take the music out here. So introduce yourself to the listeners for me, please.
My name is Danjuma Cooper. I am the founder of what's called the Disability Awareness Experts. We are disability advocates and consultants. To break this down a little further, the vision of our mission is to empower our people, and I use the term our people because I am disabled, to empower, to help empower our people, to educate our people about the importance of self-empowerment and self-reliance.
So, but before we get into what your disability is, okay, let's go back in time and tell us who you are and like where you grew up at.
Okay. I was born in Washington, D.C. My father was a Marine, so I grew up as a military dependent. My father was a Marine, so I've lived in various places, Japan, Hawaii, California, Korea, Germany. So, I mean, I've lived all over the world and all over the
military
country.
life as a child dependent.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Loved it. I'm legally blind, and I developed this visual impairment at the age of 18, right before we left Honolulu, which was around 1995. It came in a rush within about a 6-month period.
What was going on, that led up to this?
They have no idea. It took the doctors about a year. It's a genetic eye disorder. It's called Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy.
Okay.
And basically it was transferred to me by my mother.
Oh, wow.
Genetics. So, and again, there was very little known in 95 about this. The doctors, it took them roughly maybe 96, 97 before they finally figured this out.
Right.
And so by then I'd had it for 2 years. So,
and it's important because the show that I do, Sickle Cell Trait Awareness, is a genetic inherited gene. So it's for you to come on the show and say that you've inherited this gene from your mom, I don't think people really understand that we pass these genes to our children. Right. Hair color, eye color, all these different genetics that we inherited from our parents. Right. So you're going to the doctor, and what are they What are they saying?
Well, again, this was 1994, 95. There was very little known about this particular disease. It's a rare genetic disorder.
Yeah.
And over the course of the last 10 years, the doctors have learned a little bit more about it. But there just wasn't, I grew up in a time, unfortunately, that there just was very little known.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had to cope with this on my own. And it goes back to the notion of self-empowerment. A lot of my journey had to do with me empowering myself.
Yeah.
With a lot of encouragement from my parents and from family.
At the start, what were your eyes? Were you losing sight or the color? Like, what was the?
No, I always had vision. I had vision. I wore glasses since the age of 5.
Okay.
And so it basically, the simplest way to describe it is it's astigmatism. Anybody that's worn glasses out there knows what astigmatism is. And the easiest way to describe this is the fact that I've got a severe astigmatism that can't be corrected. I can see colors. I can see you all.
Okay.
You're just a big blur.
Okay.
That's about the best way to describe it.
You know, my uncle was a Vietnam veteran, and
Right.
he lost his sight
Right.
through all the, complications of his health. He was on dialysis for 20 plus years. He legally blind.
Right.
So he described himself he described his vision as cloudy, like overcast, and there's like a real thick fog or something like that. Is that kind
Absolutely.
of
That's
what your?
I mean, that's basically what astigmatism is.
Yeah.
A big cloud.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely right. Legal blindness, they determine your status of legal blindness based on your visual acuity.
Yeah.
And so my visual acuity is 2600.
Okay.
And that's
where the cutoff is to be legally blind.
Right.
And so at 18, how did you handle that mentally? Like starting to lose your vision. How did you take that on?
Well, a lot of it was my insistence. A lot of it for a lot of people, it starts with denial, and I was no different. I still continued to do everything that I was doing, even with it, whether it was running the streets, whether it was I still insisted on doing that. And so for the most part, my life just didn't change because I was just hell-bent determined that I was going to live independently. I was just, it's outside of just being pissed off and angry.
Angry at life, angry at your parents,
angry at life. I mean, it was just something that, just angry at life. Just, the fact that it really, really sucked. But, just, for the most part, because it's a transition that you have to deal with.
Of course, mentally.
And so
18 years old, you're losing your vision. Mm-hmm. It's inherited. You're hard on life. Mm-hmm. What did you do to get that?
Nothing. I mean, it took about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And like I said, I still remained in the streets. I basically had to be on the streets. I was homeless for about 6 months at 19, 18, 20.
Wow.
Because, I was a rebellious teenager.
Okay.
And again, my parents.
So you just took off? You was like, I'm out?
No. I went to Job Corps.
Oh, okay.
I told my father I wanted to leave.
Okay.
I wanted to go to Job Corps, and so I dropped out of high school. I went to Job Corps.
Okay.
That didn't work. Got kicked out, and I was basically on the street.
Yeah.
And so at that point, that was my turning point.
Okay.
And so, like I said, for the most part, my life, the vision problem didn't determine what I did or didn't do.
Okay. When did you start connecting to the vision aspect of it, and the empowerment started to surface?
The empowerment. But that's what I'm saying. The empowerment was already, the only difference is that the empowerment went into a positive aspect.
Okay.
When I talk about empowerment, I'm talking about just in terms of not letting the vision or the disability defeat you.
Yeah.
I always had the mentality. Up higher? Okay. I always had the mentality that the disability was not going to defeat me. Yeah. It was just a matter of me turning that mentality into a positive aspect.
Exactly. And I get that. I mean, if you look at Star Wars, you talk about the dark side, and so you can use that energy in a negative aspect or a positive aspect. So you went from the negative aspect
to the positive.
And what became of that?
Essentially, I went back to high school. They let me back into high school.
Okay.
Graduated at 21.
Okay.
And essentially went to college and started pursuing the dream of helping other individuals with disabilities understand that there just is no limit.
How was it going back to high school after being away?
You know what? This was 98. So I was 2 years, but I was the oldest thing there.
Yeah,
but
exactly. I'm sure, right? So how did that impact you?
It didn't, because I wanted to go to my prom.
Yeah.
I missed my prom, and I wanted to go to my prom, and I just wanted to get a high school diploma.
Okay.
I didn't want a GED.
Okay.
So,
That's awesome.
So
any feedback from the other students that remembered you, or was like,
no, we still laugh about it today.
No kidding.
And so we still laugh about it today. But I mean, it's that high school in Mississippi, I was only there for about a year and a half.
Okay.
I actually went to a high school reunion from Hawaii because about last year. So even though I didn't graduate from that high school,
Yeah.
but I still knew most of my people there. But I mean, it's again, I mean, my legacy, if anything, is you don't let it defeat you. And so, like I said, even when I was in the streets,
Yeah.
my attitude was still the same. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to let it.
You can speak to not just you're losing your vision, but even the homeless aspect. You know what that feels like, tastes like, been there.
Absolutely.
When you were homeless, did your survival skills kick in?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What was that?
Yeah,
what was that like?
I knew there were two things that I never wanted to be, and that was cold and hungry.
Yeah.
And so I found a homeless shelter quickly.
Yeah.
And I adapted.
Yeah.
And it only took me 6 months to realize what life truly was like on the streets, and that's not what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So I found someplace, one of the older guys handed me a flyer. This was a transitional group home for youth.
Okay.
That's where I went.
Okay. And what was that like for you, transition into that home?
I just, I saw it as an opportunity. God gave me my last opportunity to get this right.
Yeah.
Because I had gone through, I had escaped a lot of serious time as a teenager. A lot of it had to do with where we were living and my father's career.
Yeah.
So it really, really protected me from probably serious time that I probably would have. So
you can attest to some of that training from your being in an environment in the military
I
to
was
the streets.
Well, no, I was protected. I think to a degree, when you live in Hawaii, when you're doing silly stuff in Hawaii, you're not going to get anywhere near the type of penalty that you probably would get living in the city. So I was doing
that
this
protection
stuff.
Of you can act a fool on the island and be all right, but then when you got in the streets of where you were,
right,
law,
I saw the
reality
of it
hit. Yeah, the reality
Absolutely.
set in. Awesome. So when did this vision kick in for you,
in terms
as far
of,
as the creation of the business?
In terms probably after my first master's degree. I got my first master's degree at the age of 28.
Okay.
And again, I had been working with people with disabilities for years.
So hold on. So master's degree and you were legally blind?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about
Okay.
this experience of having to learn to read blind. Like, what was that like, the transition?
I put myself in a position of pairing up with individuals who were blind. I was
Yeah.
living in Mississippi, and I got acquainted with the blind community. I
Yeah.
mean, I had no real qualms once I accepted the reality. I had no qualms with connecting with the community that I needed to connect with
Yeah.
in order to learn how to survive. And a lot of it has to do with accepting it's a transition. When if you haven't been,
I want you to say that again, because
Right.
I think people don't really understand that the first level of that is really accepting
it,
that disability. I mean, actually owning it. And I'm going to tell you, as an advocate for sickle cell, I caught myself about to let my disability from the military define me.
Right.
Yet I was talking to my community like, don't let that disease define you. Don't let that disease define you.
Right.
Don't let that disease define you. But then I found in my own self, sometimes I was like getting depressed about what the military called disability.
But there's a difference between accepting it and letting it define you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, when I say accept it, that just means, I'm this, I have this. There's certain things that I just, that I need to be realistic
the reality
about what
of
I have.
it, exactly, the reality of it.
It doesn't mean that you sit at home and become an invalid and
Right.
you let it. So there's a big difference between acceptance and defining.
So you had to learn Braille? Is that?
No, they discouraged me from learning Braille.
What?
I'm actually trying to learn Braille now. Because their attitude was you have sight. And, even though I was living with other blind people, I had probably more sight than the average blind individual.
Okay.
So I never learned Braille. So I really just learned how to maximize, the vision that I had.
Wow.
To, essentially be independent. And so I'm a testament, guys. I've traveled the world alone. I've traveled the U.S. alone. It's literally mind over matter, a lot of it. And a lot of it has to do with surviving out here. The reality of it is, a lot of what I've done, I faked it to make it. You heard the word fake it to make it?
I've heard that.
I did it. And so I mean, it's you have to survive. You know, it's that was part of the acceptance. That was part of my journey, and I was fortunate enough that I was able to pull that off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily advise it, especially if you are completely blind. But the reality of it is that you have to do what you have to do to survive.
What was your interaction with people? Because I'm looking at you, you can't tell. And,
but that was
having
a
conversation with people, and then at some point you had to disclose or say.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
That was the advantage that I had that most others didn't. I could go wherever. I never had to worry about people bothering me because I could fake it to make it. And so you can't. And so that's, unfortunately, we live in a world where, you know, if you at least, even if you're not strong, it's survival of the fittest. You have to either act like you're strong or act the role. And if you don't, the reality of it is that you're going to get bothered and you're going to get messed with.
Did you fear, I don't say fear, but did you feel at some point when you're communicating with someone that let me go ahead and disclose that this is where I'm at? Or like, how did you pick and choose?
It depended on the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even disclose it in times on jobs.
Oh, wow.
And probably I should have. I mean, I've worked jobs ranging from, you know, handling mental patients. I've worked jobs, I've worked jobs that technically I probably shouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
But you do what you got to do. It's paying $70,000 a year. You do what you got to do.
Right.
So, I mean, no, you have to pick and choose.
Okay.
And so
after the master's degree,
I continued to, you know, I began getting more involved in the professional rehab world. Prior to that, it was nonprofit. It was advocacy work. I was really getting introduced to the disability world in terms of working. And so after my first master's degree, I finally got my first city job, working for the city, and really getting an understanding about the differences between nonprofit, state, and federal agencies in terms of disability, working for people with disabilities. So,
rights. I mean, you talking about the rights. I mean,
in terms of what their mission is. The reality of it is that the vision and the mission is just, it's not the way that it should be. For a lot, and it varies from place to place. It varies from where you are, but the reality of it is that a lot of, especially quite frankly, for the state and for the cities, it's about meeting a quota. It's not really about the vision of really empowering people with disabilities. Or enhancing employment. It's about meeting a quota.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I was doing was basically helping individuals with disabilities just get a job. Rather than really helping them to meet their dreams or to really maximize their potential. So I got frustrated with that quickly.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
Then we're going to get back and wrap up the show.
Right.
I want to thank you for coming on the special edition of WDC Radio and sharing about who you are and the difference you want to make in the community that you represent. So I appreciate you. So this is WDC Radio. I'm your host. I'm WDC. I want to thank you for tuning in. This is a special edition of WDC Radio, and we will be right back.
Do you or does someone you know have sickle cell disease? Have you heard about the EPIC study? It's an international research study evaluating an investigational drug aimed at shortening the duration of painful crisis. And with over 50 sites in the US, there may be a site near you. To learn more and to find out if the EPIC study is right for you, visit www.theepicstudy.com.
and it won't be long. You're gonna look for me and I'll be gone. I believe, should I believe? Oh yeah, oh baby, you're trying to make a fool out of me. I said you're going round here with your head so hard. I think I'm gonna have to use my rod, 'cause I believe. Said I believe. Oh yeah, I believe, baby. I believe in trying to make a fool out of me. Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah. Baby, 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 last night while you were sleeping, I heard you say, oh, Ronnie, when you know my name, when you know my name, when you know my name is Ronnie, I believe, oh, yeah, yeah, oh, baby, I said I believe in trying to make a fool out of me. I said you're going round here with your head so hard. I think I'm gonna have to use my rod. I got to know how you really feel. I got to know if your love is really real. But I believe, oh, you don't want me. Said I believe, you don't need me.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. This is WDC Radio. I'm your host. I'm WDC. This is a special edition of WDC Radio. I got Mr. Cooper here sharing his information, who he is. And, man, I appreciate you for coming on the show, man, and sharing who you are, man. I really thank you for that.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Before we leave, I want to.
Oh, give you applause.
Oh. Before we leave, look, I want to plug the individuals that are working with me, and so I don't know whether all of you nice listeners out there have heard of Easy Way Broadcasting. If you're interested, if you're starting a business and you're interested in branding, these are the guys to call. Okay. Trust me, because they have really put my business on the next level. Okay. They Eric Zuley, Easy Way Broadcasting, give them a call. And so these are some major players in terms of marketing. And let me show you a feature of my ad is actually one of the features in this. So they set me up. We had a little event for Special Olympics out there in Orange County on Thursday. A lot of major players were there. I got an opportunity to speak with the mayor of Mission Viejo and Larry Namer. That was the president of ETV. Okay. So was actually there. So it was great. These guys are the realest. Eric Zuley, I'm plugging him as well. So again, if you're looking to start a business, you need a branding, these are the guys to call.
Thank you. So what are you looking to take your business to now?
Well, the idea is to contract with agencies, disability agencies. In order to get the name out, we're advocates and consultants. Okay. So the idea is to contract with agencies, who work on behalf of individuals with disabilities to help educate them in terms of the idea of self-reliance and independence. So we contract with nonprofit agencies, we contract with public and private or federal agencies, specifically disability agencies. You know, we provide training, job development training. The idea is to provide all sorts of training, motivational speaking.
Right.
Again, our vision is empowerment, to enhance a level of a sense of self-empowerment for our people. And again, our people being the disabled community. We also work as consultants with businesses who are looking to hire individuals with disabilities. The idea, we have to establish business relationships. We have to get the businesses on board. We have to, you know, at least be patient enough with them to educate them in terms of what people with disabilities can bring to the table and why they should hire. Why they should hire us. So in terms of people with disabilities. So
I want you to let's be real with each other.
Okay.
Do you see a disconnection between people who are disabled and the people who are not disabled in the community? Like, do you really see
I do see the disconnection. I think it's understandable. I think that there are a lot of good-hearted individuals who are not disabled, but I think a lot of it is just the lack of understanding.
Okay.
And I literally look at our plight in terms of people as in the same vein as the civil rights plight.
Okay.
The civil rights plight was developed under the sense that if we educate the broader community that African Americans are as capable and of doing what it is that we need to, if we educate them,
right,
they will be more apt to give us the opportunity. All we're asking, the civil rights was built on.
Do you see some employers are kind of standoffish from hiring people with disabilities?
They're standoffish, probably again because of the lack of understanding. There's
so you want to bring that relatedness, that understanding to those who want to hire.
In terms of, like I said, it's we're consultants. Hire us as consultants. We are subject matter experts on issues pertaining to disability issues. In terms of, and we can educate the businesses in terms of, again, the best method and means for hiring the best qualified disabled individuals, how to remain in compliance. We can educate these businesses in helping them to understand about, we understand the bottom line for businesses is maximization of profits and minimization of overhead.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
As far as me as a disabled veteran,
mm-hmm.
when you talk to other disabled, community members, how do you share with them like what kind of job they should even be looking for? Like, do you talk to both communities? Do you talk to the businesses and the people living with these disabilities? Because if I have this certain, I want to be a dancer, but I can't dance. Like, how do you have conversations with them to really be with the reality of this is the kind of job you want to look for?
Well, that goes with the education part. And again, part of the business, the disability awareness experts, is to educate. Awareness,
because there's a responsibility for both parties here.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I don't want to look for a job that I know I'm not capable of doing.
Absolutely.
And then get mad because I don't get that job.
Well, we educate our people in terms of having realistic goals. And again, that's part of the counseling aspect.
Yeah.
But the businesses, that doesn't have anything to do with that. The only thing that we're asking the businesses to do is to provide us with equal employment opportunity.
Okay.
The education in terms of what we need to do to educate our people in terms of the realistic, part in terms of being job ready, establishing a level of job development. We provide those things as well. That's part of what we provide as well.
Before I let you go, is there anything you want to say that we didn't cover so the listeners how can they find you? What are you looking for?
Go to my I am on Facebook. I am on Twitter. Danjuma Cooper, DANJUMA COOPER, or you can find me on Facebook or Twitter by putting in the Disability Awareness Experts. My website is daexperts.org. That's daexperts.org. My phone number is 1-888-551-0178.
Okay. Hey,
so if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact us and to look us up.
Hey, I want to thank you for coming here on the special edition of WDC Radio. I look forward to doing some work with you and helping you make a difference in your community and making this happen, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I appreciate you. So I want to thank you for tuning and listening in. This is WDC Radio. I'm your host. I'm WDC. I'll be back next Saturday again on the Sports Lounge Live at 2 p.m. and then again on WDC Radio at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here on LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk.
I'm motivated right now. Fire, bro, fire. The track on fire. Well, let me tell it to you one time. You violate me even one time. I only pull the trigger one time. Slug kiss too big one time. You see the pictures out of one time. So just raise them and bust them one time. Girl, if you give it to me one time, it's for sure you can back more than one time. Just know you're fucking with a city boy. And you know them city boys that keep a lot of toys. Like AKs, SKs,